Hello, and welcome to the Community IT Innovators Technology Topics Podcast, where we discuss nonprofit technology, cybersecurity, tech project implementation, strategic planning, and nonprofit IT careers. Find us at communityit.com. Thank you for joining this Community IT Podcast Part 2. You can find Part 1 in your podcast feed if you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
Welcome, everyone, to the Community IT Innovators webinar on cybersecurity awareness training tips. My name is Carolyn Woodard. I'm the Outreach Director for Community IT. I'll be the moderator today.
My name is Matt Eshleman.
KnowBe4 is the tool that we use. It provides a full range of resources that are available to users. So Matt, would you like to talk about KnowBe4?
Yeah, so as Carolyn said, we use KnowBe4. It gives us a lot of tools to automate and really kind of streamline the training process. For the folks that are in that, no training or kind of ad hoc approach, you're kind of in that level one, maybe low level of maturity. And then I think, the likelihood and risk for your organization is a lot higher, because most organizations, are in the cloud, right? The risk of ransomware is relatively low, but the risk to account compromises, which are often initiated through clicking on a malicious link that's kind of stealing your credentials, that's very high. For organizations, right, that are getting those wire fraud messages, or you're interacting with maybe a compromised account on the other end from somebody you know and you kind of trust, kind of that verification process and kind of looking at all of the other email recipients can be missed. And so starting off at that basic level of compliance, the risk of the organization is a lot higher. I think as you move into those categories where if you can make cybersecurity something that the organization is working at intentionally, having a formal program for new staff, right? As Carolyn said, unfortunately, you've got a good example, but also a good example to kind of share that, hey, this happened to me, watch out. And I think that can be really effective as a tool for other new staff to hear is oh yeah, this is not just, the video, but it's my colleagues, also reminding me. But then that can kind of build into these more mature levels that are identified here, from kind of having, more robust scheduled trainings, maybe tailored trainings based on the work role, who's clicking on stuff. And then that feedback loop, I think, is important. So it's not just IT makes everybody take all these trainings, but IT is really a partner in keeping the organization secure, and staff are helping IT by reporting suspicious behavior, reporting those weird messages, that make it through the spam filters, right? Because the technical solutions are imperfect. And it's an important way to build culture, to build relationship from the, kind of the staff and the IT services, so that you can work towards building that overall sustainable security culture where it's something everybody's working together. It's not just operations staff and executives kind of don't have to participate, but it's really building a culture across the organization to make sure that the entire organization is secure.
Yeah, building on that idea of education, improving your training standards, and helping to improve the overall cybersecurity maturity of your organization. These are some helpful tips to increase the effectiveness of your program. Of course, each organization, every nonprofit is a special flower and has its own unique culture, but there are a range of tools and trainings that you can find. But these are kind of some of our tips. So providing kudos, we know executive involvement is key. You want the training to be focused on positive things to do. It helps improve the organization's security. So always approaching it in that message rather than I'm going to have to do this because it's required, but I think it's a massive waste of time. So trying to encourage the staff to feel that they're protecting this organization that they care enough about to work for. So, kind of putting them all in the same army, protecting your organization. Every organization is different. There may be a mandated baseline training, but you may find that your organization is really competitive. So having quizzes or having some kind of leaderboard might work for you, or having games or having mini trainings is better because your schedule is so hectic all the time. So trying to identify the culture and the style is helpful. Remedial training, of course, calling it remedial may be difficult, but it should be quick, it should be relevant, it should be instant. So as Matt said before, when you click on the thing, immediately getting some information and education about what was wrong with that email that was a fake phishing attempt, and what you could have looked at to see, and just so that you'll know next time. That really helps benefit the people who are the clickers. And then practice, practice, practice. So familiarity with the types of attacks and scams is more than half the battle. So doing those micro trainings, having the phishing emails come right to your email, doing frequent trainings also helps you introduce new scams as they're kind of coming online. So hopefully you can train your staff before they get a real one from the wild that's that new scam that they don't know about. A couple of months ago, last summer, we did a webinar on being a learning organization that I think was just really helpful. But we're going to move along and go into analyzing a suspicious email. So Matt, you were going to talk a little bit more about phishing.
Yep. So I think some of the terminology is important. And again, we'll talk about, the specific steps that you can take to critically look at a message, check for those red flags, and then an encouragement always to be able to ask someone or submit a ticket. So that feedback loop and that engagement with IT is a really important aspect of the whole process.
Yeah, you never want to make it so that people feel afraid to tell you that they've clicked on something wrong or made a mistake, because the longer it lasts, the worse it's going to be. So spam versus phishing, we're going to talk a little bit about spam being those unwanted communications for goods or services. They're sent in bulk. You're just on a list. You're getting something from, they're hoping that you're going to order something from them or what have you. Versus phishing, which is a type of social engineering in which the attacker pretends to be someone you know to gain access to something you have. So often there is a link, there's something that they're trying to get you to click on or give your information to them so that then they can use it for something else.
Yeah. So thanks for providing that definition. I think a lot of stuff kind of gets blobbed together, but it is, I think, pretty clear, right? Spam is just kind of unwanted messages. It's pretty clear who it's from. You just don't want it, right? It's okay to unsubscribe. It's okay to delete, right? All those things are important steps to take. With phishing, there's often these red flags that you can see in the message, and that should kind of trick your spidey sense to kind of analyze the message and look at it in more detail. So again, there's often this kind of appeal to human emotions, right? A sense of urgency, maybe that authority gap, maybe some threatening language, or maybe even unrealistic promises or free money, right? Hey, this great deal, click on this, limited time offer, right? I mean, we see these techniques in a range of engagement messages that we get, but I think the phishing messages are particularly kind of use this technique because they're relying on us to kind of take that action. Because this is business, right, there's often this vague or generic greeting or maybe a formal greeting. If they're like scraping your information off of LinkedIn, maybe they're going to refer to you as, Matthew, not Matt, or dear user or greetings. Kind of going over the misspellings and grammatical errors. This still does happen, although I must say, with the advent of all these AI tools that are kind of free and easy to use, well-crafted, sophisticated messages with good tone and proper grammar are kind of the rule now, and kind of some of those things we used to be able to rely on just aren't the case anymore. Then, obviously look for suspicious attachments. What we are seeing often is that there will be some kind of, the link itself isn't maybe malicious, but like the link goes to a document, and in the document, then there's, another link to go to or some other instructions to follow. And so it kind of avoids the virus, scanners that are in your email tools, but then takes you to another location, maybe that isn't as well protected. And then, they're going to try to get access to your information through there. The things that we'll really look at, and we have some examples here in the next slide or two, is the information that doesn't match, right? If the sender's name and email address or the logos, URLs, those are really the kind of the bedrock techniques to really understand, like, is this message coming from who I think it is or who it says it is? And then, kind of that, the follow-up, right? Click on the link and sign in. All those requests is call for actions, really are the beginnings of many scams to try to intercept your credit cards, steal your password information, kind of to take those next steps down towards a financial attack.
So here's an example.
Yeah, so this is an example. I've used this in a couple of presentations, right? So this is sent to me. It was actually a while ago at this point. But Online Invoices is a real company. This is their branding. Everything looks correct. Like, all the links in this message are accurate, except for if you hover over the view invoice, instead of it going to Online Invoices, it's actually going to corporatecatererscleveland.com, which is not Online Invoices. And then if you notice up in the from field, it is, while it's the display name is Online Invoices Inc., all rights reserved, very formal. The actual reply email address is your invoice at medsdirectinc.com. So what that tells me is that perhaps there's problems both with corporatecatererscleveland.com, right? Their website maybe has been compromised, and these threat actors are now using it to host a malicious web page. And at the same time, medsdirectinc.com, maybe that's a domain the hacker set up, maybe it's a compromised account, but they are using that obfuscation to target me. I pay a lot of bills, I get a lot of invoices, right? And so it wouldn't be unusual for me to get an email from Online Invoices. But in this case, because of hovering over the links and looking at the reply to address, we can determine that this is indeed a phishing email that's designed to, kind of take me down the road of making a payment to a vendor that doesn't exist. When you don't have links to look at, right, this is something that we see on and on. It's really frustrating that these things kind of sneak in through the spam filters, but there's just not that much to go on, right, for a spam filter to kind of analyze this. So this is an example, right? I need you to run a quick task. Let me know if you're available. Again, we see those elements of a sense of urgency. There's a little bit of that authority kind of power dynamic, where the executive director is asking a subordinate to, like, do something. Don't bother me. I'm in a meeting. Do a quick task. But again, if you would interact with this, then there's probably a call for, like, hey, I'm out. I'm in a meeting. I need some gift cards for this purpose or that purpose. Can you just do it? I'll reimburse you, or you'll get reimbursed, whenever you get back into the office. And then, away goes the gift card money. And then again, the same thing, kind of moving up from gift card scam, which is, often denominated in, the hundreds of dollars. The wire transfer fraud is really prolific. I think the bad guys figured out it's, like, way easier just to ask you for, like, $50,000 than to like write a sophisticated virus that needs to be deployed on a system and encrypt your files, and you got to buy Bitcoin. And so it's just easier to be like, hey, can you process a wire? Like, here's the updated information. Or we're having tax issues with our bank. I would completely foresee that in the very near future, the bad guys are going to know, right? 8,000 IRS workers have been axed. You're going to get a whole bunch of emails to be like, hey, we're having problems. I'm from the IRS. We're having problems, processing your tax information. There's been a problem. We're understaffed. Here's the updated information to make your payment. I guarantee you that those messages are going to start landing in your inbox soon. Again, the bad guys know it's just a lot easier to ask. Again, the wire transfer, that sense of urgency. So it's important to have these pre-established systems in place. How does your organization change, make wire transfers? Who's authorized? How do you verify the destination that you're sending it to is trusted and is legitimate? And that really should involve something other than email, because it's very likely that even if the sender address, even if this Tom person is from an organization that it's possible that their account is compromised. And again, we see that being a technique that the threat actors use, is that they will compromise an account, and then they will use that compromised account to reach out to trusted organizations in your address book that on your website, they know who you interact with. And so it's important to have those pre-established processes in place. I think we have a whole webinar about financial fraud.
I was
sending out as well.
Yeah, I was just going to add in, like, don't do those workarounds. Like, make sure you follow the processes that you have. They're there for a reason.
Yeah. And then here finally, so this is an example of the message from the KnowBe4 platform. And so again, in the platform, you can kind of toggle the red flags. And if we would do that here, you can see that, right, it says Microsoft, but it's actually from Microsoft-secure.Net, right? That's not the correct thing. We see that call, that call to action, like here's a QR code, right? Scan this link, take this additional step. So again, all those are some red flags that would call us to be critical in terms of evaluating the message and its legitimacy.
So we only have a little bit of time left. I think we're going to have to go quickly through this so we can get to a couple Q&A, but we did want to talk about what do you do after you find a suspicious email? So how do you make staff aware of the resources they have and what their next steps should be? Remembering that the cover-up is always worse than the crime. Staff should always feel safe reporting mistakes, and they should know not to try and fix the problem themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think having a trusted relationship between IT and the staff is really important. Again, if you can, if somebody clicked, it's okay. IT wants to know about it so we can remediate it, right? Often reset passwords. Maybe we're going to scan the computer. Or we're going to look at some other things just to verify that that click didn't turn into access. There's a couple different tools. And so if we look at the next slide, right? So we use KnowBe4, which gives us a super easy and integrated way to use what they call the fish alert button so that staff can be instructed to just click fish alert, and then it gets submitted to an email address that you define. For in-house IT departments, we would just suggest making that a separate mailbox, right, that gets reviewed or checked once a day just to kind of verify and kind of see what's going on. But again, it gives you that ability to engage with your staff, see what they're seeing, identify what's being reported, what's being sent, and maybe what's not being reported. So this is something KnowBe4 does really well, and I'm sure that there's other tools available from other vendors that have a similar style. Again, if you're just getting started and you don't have a way to kind of programmatically do this, the ability to forward as attachment, it's actually on that slide, right? So you can forward a message, instruct your staff to forward an attachment, and that will preserve the message and its headers. So as an IT person, you can kind of evaluate that. Again, just to get a little bit more information for kind of future investigation. So whenever we have our clients submit that fish alert, right, we want to make sure that it's suspicious for review. It's not a way for your staff to like send you all their junk mail instead of unsubscribing it. So it's an educational piece, right? It's kind of defining, hey, there's spam, and you can kind of, it's benign. Let's unsubscribe. Let's clean it up, or mark it as junk. If it's suspicious and you want somebody to kind of review it or evaluate it, or kind of report it because it may have impacted other folks, then that phishing classification is justified. And so finally, think before you click. If you're unsure about who an email is from, don't click on it as links or attachments found in the message. For those of you that are kind of just getting started, there are lots of great free resources. So staysafeonline.org is a federal resource. I think it's still up, but it's a great resource for some of those security awareness trainings as you're kind of just getting ramped up. If you've kind of done the free stuff, maybe you need a bit more integrated tools. There's a lot of different security awareness training platforms out there that will help automate and streamline a lot of these processes. As you're reflecting on your own program and kind of all this stuff, I would just encourage you to do one more thing, right? So if you are in a category, maybe you're just doing, maybe annually doing training, maybe be more intentional about giving your staff a way to report suspicious messages to IT. If you already have KnowBe4, using that fish alert button can be great. If you've already got that in place and you're only doing monthly or annual training, I really think that quarterly cadence is probably like, it's our minimum, right? The quarterly cadence, just to get in a rhythm of reviewing, evaluating, and learning new stuff. If you've already done that, monthly newsletter, maybe a staff meeting moment for IT, that can be a great way to get engaged, or kind of go all the way up to doing monthly trainings that really are in line with your organization's culture, right? Maybe it's fun and games. Maybe you want to use the mini series option, which is a KnowBe4, which is kind of a surprisingly fun thing that we're getting feedback on. But again, I would just encourage, like, whatever you're doing right now, look at taking one more advanced step or maybe two to get more engagement with your staff and more fully embrace the security awareness training platform at your organization.
To learn more about Community IT's cybersecurity offerings and schedule time to talk with Matt for a free assessment or just to ask him more of your questions, please go to communityit.com/cybersecurity and you'll find more information there. We also have a lot of cybersecurity resources on our website, including a free download cybersecurity playbook for nonprofits that talks more about how we think about cybersecurity and where staff training fits in your cybersecurity strategic planning.
We had a couple of questions. One that I thought was maybe we could get to is that from a compliance point of view, are there specific legal requirements for nonprofits, like compared to banks, healthcare, insurance companies all have very specific compliance that they have to go through? Do nonprofits have anything like that in the United States?
I mean, probably the short answer is that no. Although we are starting to see more compliance requirements come kind of through the financial audit aspect. So if any formal compliance requirement exists, it's going to be coming through that angle right now.
Here is a podcast that we did not very long ago on that new auditing requirement. It's called SAS 145. So you can find out a lot more about it there. Matt, we have a couple more questions. So one was about VPNs. We are an orchestra. We use a VPN when logging into our ticketing software, which also processes credit cards. Our other process is to use Square whenever we're at a concert, so people, I guess, can buy the ticket right there. So which is better? Do they have to choose, or does that sound like a pretty good setup?
I mean, I think that sounds like a good setup. I think with credit cards now you get into what's called PCI compliance. One of the aspects of PCI compliance is that basically like any interaction with the card data holder environment needs to come under additional scrutiny. And so again, using a VPN may be a way to kind of funnel down like which systems need to be scanned or kind of help to meet some of that PCI requirements. So as with all things PCI, consult your own policy and legal guidance for that. But again, certainly with some of those security standards, that could be a good use case for the use of a VPN. Again, I would just make sure that if you are using a VPN, it's not kind of a consumer grade product, because that can kind of bounce you around and just make it kind of complicated to monitor. Kind of a business class system. Maybe you're buying a dedicated IP that's always assigned to your organization. That can be kind of an effective way to kind of clearly articulate traffic from this address, this IP that's valid going to these systems.
Mm-hmm. That sounds good, especially where there's money involved in people's credit card information. We have another question that asks, it's always best to report as junk instead of unsubscribing, correct? When you unsubscribe, can that lead to a connection to a scammer?
So I know that this kind of goes back and forth and kind of the guidance is that, yeah, you can, so don't unsubscribe. That just like confirms the bad guys. I will say, I mean, our experience has been in general, if you're like receiving like, I don't know, like legitimate spam, and in most cases, right, it's like you signed up for something a long time ago and you kind of forgot about it. I mean, my experience has been pretty good that clicking the unsubscribe button within a message, does in fact remove my address from those lists. If you're getting something that like seems extremely scammy, like whatever, misspelled Viagra ads, like maybe that unsubscribe is not going to work. But again, if you're getting, marketing newsletters for like stuff that you're like not really interested or relevant anymore, the unsubscribe stuff I think works fairly well there. I mean, I know on the other side, right, like sending newsletters, the bar is pretty high to like make sure that, the tools that we're using, include a valid and active unsubscribe process. And so again, if you're like receiving mail from, HubSpot, MailChimp, like all those big mail services, those unsubscribe processes are going to work and be effective.
Yeah, those are required by law in the United States, at least, that you have to be allowed to unsubscribe, and it has to be pretty easy and obvious. I would say also that if you do try to unsubscribe from something and it turns out not to be real, a real unsubscribe, the block button is your friend. Like you can block
Mhm.
that address. And then, if you get more that are associated with it, just go ahead and block those too, because now you know.
Mhm.
Someone says, where can I find information to use as training materials for staff? Do we have training templates that clients use? That resource that we gave earlier, the Stay Safe Online, do they have any
Mhm.
information on training, or do you have any free resources that might be? We do not have any on our website. So I'm just wondering if there's somewhere else that people can find those sorts of things.
Yeah, I mean, Stay Safe Online, that's the National Cybersecurity Alliance. Again, like has some kind of good foundational resources to help you get started. I think that's a great place. TechSoup.org. I'm not sure if it's free anymore, but I did a kind of a two-part security awareness training course for them that was free for quite a while. But again, there could be some additional free resources there. Again, I think, if you do Google searching, like you're going to find free resources to get started. I think the benefit of getting a security awareness training platform is that it ends up automating a lot of that, and it's not going to be relatively that expensive to do. So again, if you have no money at all, there's free resources out there. But again, getting security awareness training, like kind of an automated plan, is again a pretty affordable thing in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. We have another question. The KnowBe4 can perform testing with the email attachment. There's URLs, QR codes. Can KnowBe4, I believe the question is, can KnowBe4 send a test SMS message to see if they can get people to click on it and then give them the training?
So not anymore. They actually used to have it as a module. Like you could like load up all these like vishing or voicemail they would call, or like text messaging. But they actually don't or can't do that anymore. There are like some FCC regulations about like unsolicited texting. So like, as a company that like follows the rules, they're like, okay, I get, so so they don't. I know that we've worked with some like specific pen testers that will like build some kind of custom stuff and kind of do it. But in terms of like whatever commercial off the shelf, you know, security awareness training tools, I think that's kind of one thing that isn't really available anymore because of some of the other federal regulations about communication standards.
So you can just do those micro trainings on, like, if you were to get this kind of text to your phone, this is how you would handle it
Yeah.
and not to click on it. Eric is asking, where can I find the presentation? So this has been recorded and it'll be a video available on our website. I also put it out as a podcast, so there'll be a transcript from that. And then the transcript I will also put up within about a week usually. It takes a little bit longer to get the transcript up, but the video should be up within a day or two. All of our webinars are available there. There's no paywall. You don't have to sign in or anything. We really believe that helping our community have these resources, and you can search for all different topics. There's a ton of cybersecurity stuff there, but there's also webinars on leadership. We're doing this one on Microsoft versus Google Workspace. So just have a look at our resources and hopefully that can help you. Okay, we have one more question. I think this will be the last one about soft phones. What about the use of soft phones that are installed on a laptop but need connection to the PC to manage calls? So it sounds like a voice. Is that a voice over IP thing?
Mm-hmm. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not sure. I know a while ago, like they were, like especially like the receptionist phones, like some of the soft phone software was kind of antiquated. So I know, yeah, we had to maintain, several older versions of Java to kind of support like the local attendant console. But yeah, hopefully, I mean, there's lots of great cloud-based solutions that can kind of do all of that in a secure manner. So
I would guess if you're using an official voice mail system for your voice over IP for your organization, that they would have security built in, because they're a vendor and you're subscribed. But it would be something maybe to look at your that vendor and just ask them about the security or if there are vulnerabilities. So I think that's it. Thank you so much, Matt, for your time. Thanks for staying on a minute or two later. Thanks for everybody who stayed with us for an extra few minutes to get these questions in. And as I said, they will be in the transcript. I'm going to go ahead and go over our learning objectives quickly. We went over the cybersecurity landscape and framework, why it's so important, the importance of training, and then we gave a couple of examples of training and practice. I want to make sure to mention that next month we are going to be answering this perpetual question of whether Microsoft or Google Workspace is a better platform for nonprofits. If you were going to start a nonprofit from scratch tomorrow, which should you choose? What are reasons to switch platforms? Can you manage a hybrid of the two platforms together, or is that a recipe for disaster? So join us next month on March 19th at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, when our CEO, Johan Hammerstrom, and our Director of IT Consulting, Steve Longenecker, are going to draw on their experience to talk about these two platforms. And you can register for that now on our website. And Matt, thank you so much for making us smarter today about training. We really do believe that your staff are, your eyes and ears. They're the ones that are going to be the first to be attacked in this way with phishing emails or these other kinds of social engineering scams. So making sure that they know what to do is really a very basic thing that you can do. And it doesn't have to be expensive. But it does have to be intentional. You have to have leadership involved and really make it, that learning environment, not punitive. You're going to get in trouble, that sort of thing. So trying to get everybody on the same page to protect your organization, I think would be our, overall tips. And then we really just like this tool that lets you manage. It's called Know Before, but there are other tools out there. So Matt, thank you so much again for your time today.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for joining this Community IT Podcast Part 2. You can find Part 1 in your podcast feed if you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Community IT does these free webinars and podcasts for our community, and we love sharing our knowledge and experience. If you have more questions or are having trouble with your IT at your nonprofit, please get in touch with us on our website, www.communityit.com, so we can start a conversation or schedule an assessment. Downloading any of our free resources there will get you signed up for our webinar reminders, and you can attend our next webinar in real time and ask our experts your own questions. If you love podcasts, please subscribe and leave us a rating to help others find this leadership resource for nonprofits.